everyone. It's Tony Tonkin here from the Child Protection Party. Glad you could be with us on this Thursday night to have a conversation with us about all things in relation to kids and how we would like their lives to be better. And tonight, to celebrate this wonderful occasion, nothing terribly special about it. Every night is wonderful, and it's particularly wonderful when Avery Hilditch is here. So how are you, mate?
I'm pretty good today. A bit of back pain as normal. Had a very busy day today, though.
Yes, we both had. It's been pretty hectic.
Yeah. I spent. We do a month shopping in the middle of the month, so we were down at Costco and Coles and places like that this morning and into the early afternoon, and then not the Child Protection Party, but with the Riley Foundation. I contacted the ACNC about our charitable registration application, and I was advised that they're waiting for us to send the minutes in for the meeting that agreed to a change in the rules. So I had to, I'd forgotten all about drafting the minutes, so I've done that now, just waiting to get them signed off.
Because we shouldn't necessarily talk about the foundation here, but it is something that we do that keeps the party separate. And the ideas and the ideology separate in a way from one from the other, which is one is representing families and actually doing the advocacy work and the counselling and all the other stuff that goes with it. And the other is, of course, the political side of things, which is the reason why we're here. So we've had a number of people already log on. Surprise, surprise.
Good.
And of course, as usual, we've got no idea what we're going to talk about. So a lot of what we say here will depend upon the type of conversation you choose to have with us. So we're inviting you, have this conversation, talk to us about the things that are really important to you. We'll keep an eye on your comments. We've got two Angelas. We've got an Angel and an Angela here, and Julie. So it's great having you guys. Kate, good to see you as well. Not that I can see you. I've wondered why announcers on television or elsewhere make those sorts of statements, but they do. But are you getting feedback on that, Avery?
I was, but the feedback was because I've got Facebook Live in front of me right now, and I hadn't noticed the volume was still on.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So what we wanted to talk about today is that, so we want to talk about the COVID, and we want to talk about kids, and we want to talk about the mental health of children. So they're kind of like three topics bunched together, but kind of related. And Avery, I can still hear that feedback, so I don't know what's happening there.
No, it's not from me.
Okay. So we do apologise for getting a bit of feedback. Bear with us. Too late to figure that one out. So what I'd like to say is that the COVID thing, I'm wondering if there are any Victorians out there that would like to have a conversation with us about how it's impacting them, how it's impacting schooling in particular, I guess, as well, and how the COVID problem is impacting people's mental well-being. I know that I myself, that's an interesting thing to say, isn't it? I myself, like who in the hell else am I talking about? But I find that I get concerned about the possibility of being infected with the COVID because of my age group, I guess. And I am concerned that if I don't have any really underlying issues that I know of, but I'm prepared to be surprised. But, and how do we deal with the mental health issues? I've noticed that there have been an increase in calls to places like Lifeline during the last 5-6 months. And there have been some increased calls to Kids Helpline as well, and in relation to how people are focusing around this. And I was watching an interview the other day where they were talking about kids' needs for interaction and what happens to kids when they don't tend to have that interaction with others. The reliance upon social media is fine, but they still need to have that interaction. So what do they do to occupy their time? What are they doing to make themselves feel better about who they are? And so I'm concerned about the fear that seems to be spread around COVID, the notions around hoax, that it's a hoax, it's unreal, it's not actually happening. All that sort of stuff concerns me as well. Avery, is that the sort of stuff you think about as well. That sense that what actually is happening around this. Who do we trust? We can't seem.
Yeah.
It appears we can't seem to trust our politicians. On the other hand, it doesn't seem that we can also trust the scientists. So who do we trust? Joe Blogg's sitting on front of his computer somewhere, spouting some sort of conspiracy theory about 5G, cancer, and a whole host of other crap. I mean,
Yeah.
who do we believe? Like, this is a real question. Who do we believe? If we don't believe politicians and we don't believe scientists, who does that leave us to believe?
I imagine all the Google experts that hunt down things on Facebook, and the people who spend a good 5 or 6 minutes of their life researching viruses and vaccines and things like that. They do it all. They get all that they need to know from Facebook and from Google. Why would you want to spend 20 years researching vaccines when you can do it in 5 minutes? Why would you want to spend 20 years researching viruses and when you can do it in 5 minutes on Google?
Yep. And
the people I trust are the scientists, the people who have spent 20 years studying these things, not some nitwit who's got it from a pseudoscience website.
One of the things that's been really important about CPP, I think, for us, is that we base everything that we do on other people's experiences and knowledge. So their own knowledge that they've got, the information that they've gained, and also academic information about psychology, kids' behaviour, the whole bit. So we're not shooting in the dark, and we're not flying with just what seems to be our own distorted views of reality. We actually look at what's happening, and we look at the outcomes, and we try and work out what is impacting those outcomes, and try to rectify whatever that problem is. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it, Avery? This is what we're supposed to be doing.
It does. As I said, the people that spend time in a lab studying viruses, for example, that work that they do is objectively true. You can verify, you can demonstrate it. I'm not knocking psychology and people that do the research and psychological things, but in there, it is subjective. You can't measure the state of mind of a person. You can make assessments about it. So I put my trust in scientists when it comes to things like viruses with something to do with say, mental health or psychology. I put my trust in the psychiatrists, the psychologists, the people who've actually studied it and work in the field.
I think one of the strange dichotomies that we have here is that there's kind of a strange crossover in particularly in child protection and matters in relation to kids generally. One of the crossovers, I guess, is that people have bad experiences. Their kids are removed. It's emotive. That there's accusations around people making lousy and crappy decisions. I just noticed someone had posted here. Where was it off? Oh yeah. Time someone made a motion to see caseworkers held accountable for their criminal behaviour. Now, this is a bit like saying, to me anyway, it's a bit like making the assumption that this is the virus is a conspiracy. I mean, it's there. It's there so that we are manipulated by the left or whoever, and that they're endeavouring to control every and the singular action that we take. So it's that sort of. I'm not suggesting for a moment that caseworkers don't make silly mistakes and that they don't distort the truth, because sometimes they do. We know that, but doesn't mean all caseworkers do that. And is there Avery, empirical evidence that tells us that they do, or is that our singular experience? And when it comes to the virus stuff, I believe it's about fear. It's fear. People become fearful. I have those moments as well, so I kind of get that. Where you do wonder about your own sense of mortality, and when that's all going to come to an end. So So
Especially when you've got more years behind you than you've got ahead.
oh man, I hate it when you tell me the truth. I really
Yeah,
do. But that's so true. So,
yeah,
you know, I guess there needs to be, what appears to me is that there seems to be a lack of balance around some of this stuff.
yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
It
You know,
does. What you're saying about people about fear, I think that's absolutely right. That's one of the reasons I think that the anti-vaccine movement grew the way it did after that idiot in the UK wrote that paper that wrote to the newspapers and said that vaccines cause autism. He did not know what he was talking about, but it scared people.
yeah,
And
actually, that research, the very person you're talking about, his research was found flawed, and
yeah,
he got expelled from
he
the
was dis-
university because of
he
that.
was ex- he was expelled from the university he worked at. He was kicked out of the British Medical Association. He's no
Yep.
longer allowed to practice as a doctor in the UK. Um, he's a complete and utter charlatan. If his research had been genuine, it would have been published in Lancet, a medical journal, a reputable medical journal, not in the Daily Mail, which is where he published it.
Oh, really?
Uh,
So,
yeah, yeah,
because I love the people that. So I want to draw a comparison between kind of like the way we view something like the pandemic, and the way we also view issues around kids and looking after kids and making sure kids are protected. Because I think sometimes we conflate the two sort of bizarre notions that on one hand, I have a bad experience around, well, say if you had a bad experience around a vaccine, does that automatically mean that all vaccines are bad? Or was that just one
it
bad vaccine for you?
it
Right?
doesn't mean that all vaccines are bad, but it can certainly colour your judgment, your opinion of vaccines.
Well, it's the
Uh,
same thing. It's the same thing, Avery, when they talk about bad parents. So the
yeah,
child protection system is all about bad parents. No, it isn't. It's not at all. It's about helping parents, perhaps in many cases, to be better parents. And sometimes it's about just telling the child protection system just to bugger off. You shouldn't be there and involved in the first place. You've got a whole lot of,
how many
you know.
how many cases are there? I mean, I don't know the answer to this, which is why I'm asking the question. How many cases are there where the Child Protection Department, or whatever state they happen to be in, are actually working towards helping a parent become a better parent, rather than just saying,
Well,
well, they're bad parents and taking them away?
well,
What are the numbers?
you're gonna have an argument. You're gonna have a few people jumping online now, mate,
Oh
just
yeah,
talking about that because that's like a crux of the whole issue. Is to what extent is there a specific need to remove a child, and to what extent there isn't? Who makes those decisions, and on what basis do they make those decisions in the first place? So, what
yeah,
principles underpin those decisions? There's nothing. Everything that happens this is the difference. COVID, it's an extremely objective view, right?
yeah.
Child protection and other similar issues in relation to kids, it's a very
Subjective.
subjective view.
Yeah,
So, so they're kind of they're not empirical in that sense. But interestingly enough, I'll tell you what is the same. This is interesting. What is the same is fear. So we
yeah,
have fear of catching COVID, fear of it spreading around the community, right? And then when it comes to child protection issues, we have fear of not being able to protect kids appropriately, and then fear that their parents are crappy parents and will harm them in the long term, even
yeah.
though we know the very system that takes them is likely to damage them anyway.
A
So
much worse parent.
yeah, so but do you know what I mean? But they're
I
both
do.
based on fear. There's
Yeah,
the anti-vaxxers and the hoaxers who are fearful that they're being controlled or whatever that fear is. I don't know why people have that, but anyway, people do. And then there are the other people, and there are people that within the child protection system who are just afraid of not being heard and understood.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, what I think one of the reasons, excuse me, one of the causes of that fear is uh, the complete lack of transparency from the child protection departments. People don't know because of privacy laws and things like that. People don't know about success stories that the Child Protection Department have, where they've worked with a family and they've been able to reunite the kids, or they've organised courses or whatever to help parents become better parents. But we don't hear about that. We don't hear about the actual cases. Do you know what I mean? What we hear about is the Chloe Valentines
You're right.
and things like that.
Yeah, we don't actually hear from the successful. So there are a number of people that get their kids back. This may surprise some people, but in my experience, there are some people who have the department's going for a long-term order, and they go to court, do some negotiating. Lo and behold, they change the order to a 6-month order or something. Right, so there are changes that happen within the system, but we don't hear as to what happened. Like, why did they go from a GOM 18 to a 6-month? What did the magistrate see that they weren't seeing? You know, we don't talk about any of that, and that, to me, that is some of this kind of proof that we need. It's like child protection is like this massive research project. You know, and that within that research project, we have all this information, but no one's ever allowed to access it because the department's not transparent, for one thing, and parents can't talk about it on the other, and their kids certainly can't. You know, I've been banned from talking to their kids, so bugger that. But you know, so do you understand? So it's just this conflation of ideas, I think, that is distressing, because at the end of the day, we don't have the right information to make the assessment. Most of the stuff we talk about is anecdotal.
Yeah, I think that I can't see any reason why a Child Protection Department can't put out a story where they're talking about, we worked with family X. They don't need to name the family. We worked with this particular family. They had this sort of issue, and these were the outcomes that we had. And now the kids are back with a family, and they're getting on there. And now the Child Protection Department is not intervening in the lives of that family, and put out positive stories. I'm sure I can't believe that every single interaction that somebody has with that people who have the Child Protection Department involved in their life, I can't believe that every single one of them is always negative.
I would like to see them as more positive. I attended 3 meetings today. Well, actually, one. That's not true. I didn't attend one of them. I had to speak to the client afterwards. But so it was quite interesting, because in one of those meetings, the social worker knew that she's going to be under the hammer, primarily, I guess, because she knew I was going to be there, but because she had done some things that she knew she hadn't done. But to her credit, she owned up to them, right? And she needed to get a bit of a tick for that. But the funny thing is, there are some things you can't measure. One of them is tone of voice. You know, like sometimes this social worker, I guess she's a really nice woman. Don't know her at all well, apart from what I see of her. But her tone of voice is so patronising, and I'm sure she doesn't even know that it is. You know, so there are kind of these influences on the process that play a significant part, because, you know, if you're, particularly to this client, if you're patronising to her, she's going to give you shit because she doesn't like being patronised. You know? Who
does?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, she recognises for what it is, but it is just this young social worker's way of talking, I guess. I'm not even sure that she means to be patronising. It is just her tone of voice. And someone needs to tell her at some point, you know, just go and listen to yourself for a bit. You know, perhaps, let's be supervised. That would be a novel idea. You go and get yourself, get a proper supervisor who'll tell you about and watch you work, and will comment on the way you work and say, well, that probably needs to be corrected. Maybe instead of raising your voice up there, you could just lower it a little bit. Maybe you could talk a bit softer.
How about having these caseworkers attend classes in how to talk to people?
Well, they will argue that they're social workers and that they've already done all that because they would have done that at university.
Would
But
they?
well, well, my daughter did. She only
Are
graduated.
they? Are they? Are those people who became a social worker after studying at university subject to regular assessment of their performance?
Well, no, no. I was having so
How
I,
strange.
I had this interesting conversation with someone today, and I can't say who it was because that would be unfair on him. But he was saying he was saying, look, how do I develop the counselling skills that clearly I've developed over the years? And I said to him, well, there's one thing they don't teach you. They don't teach you very well. They do have some subjects in it, but they don't teach you very well, and that is counselling. So that interaction between people isn't something that isn't taught in social work, psychology, or even friggin' medicine. So
Yeah.
psychiatrists get 6 hours of this sort of training over a 12-year period, for Christ's sake. So, so why don't we make the conversation the most important part of how we work? Because it is
I
the
wonder.
conversation that
Yeah.
is important in terms of the relationship we have with the client.
Yeah. You're not laying bricks with what you're doing. You're not knocking nails into a wall or into a piece of wood or anything like that. You're talking to people,
Yeah.
and you need to be able to talk to people in a fashion which does not uh, alienate them, that does not make them feel angry and put upon or put down upon or look down upon, if you know what I mean. I don't know whether this would work. There's a woman from the United States who, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, she was trying to teach people about racism, why racism is wrong and how it makes you feel. And what she did was she
Oh, the
got
blue eyes, blue eye, brown eye.
the blue eyes and the brown eyes
Yeah.
and said to the blue-eyed people, you lot, everybody hates you, and you lot, the brown-eyed people, have got to treat them like they are second-class citizens. And then afterwards they swapped roles, discussed how did it feel, and then they swapped the roles. And all of a sudden people understood what it was like to be oppressed, if you know what I mean, to be put down. Maybe social workers need to be put into an environment like that, where the person that's leading leading the group has one group putting down the other group in the way that they speak to me.
Actually, Avery, I think that's a brilliant idea. I really do. Go, Avery. We'll call it the Avery Technique. I think that it has a great deal of merit because I don't know whether they do. Maybe some social worker will jump on and say, "Yeah, we've done some training in that area. We've role played what it's like to be a parent."
Yeah.
Well, maybe you need to actually get a parent in there and role play it with you, so that they can give you some really good feedback about what it is like to be told that you're a crappy parent when you've done all you could for your kids under very trying circumstances often. And it's, and it's a bit like that blue eye, brown eye thing. I think it's a bit like, and that came about because of the sense of judgmentalism that people felt just because of the colour of their skin.
Yeah.
And I had this discussion with this. Oh, here we go. I had this discussion with a client the other day who referred to a coloured person in what I thought was a derogatory fashion. And I said to her, "Look, where do you think that's like?" I didn't challenge her about it being right or wrong. I just said, "Where does that idea come from? Like, what do you think of those persons that way?" And then I said to her, they did an experiment in the US where psychological experiment where they put up a series of different faces on up on a screen, and then they got people to rate how they felt about that person, and in terms of being afraid of them. If you met this person in the street, would you feel comfortable with them? Would you feel immediate? Would you feel afraid? And most of the black people, white people felt afraid of when they just saw their picture.
Yeah.
What does that tell us?
Black people have been stereotyped. All black men are rapists. All Mexicans are rape. It's
That's right.
It's stereotyping.
That's right. But doesn't it apply? doesn't the same principle apply to how they see people from low socioeconomic groups?
Exactly. If you're in a low socioeconomic group, you're a drug taker, you're a drunk. You spend
Yeah.
all your money on, all your money on cigarettes and cigarettes and booze and drugs, and you don't spend it on your kids. You do what you can to avoid paying rent
And Avery,
because you're poor.
yeah, and when you work in an environment where you know, a lot of people are involved in, because they're low socioeconomic groups, they live in poverty, they have, below minimum wage, or they have drug and alcohol use. There's domestic violence and the mental well-being issues. So, because all of those things sort of match up together. If you've got if you're poor, you're more likely to have any of those issues, because of the stress and the anxiety that just sits around your lifestyle. So,
Yeah.
so if you're living in an environment which encapsulates all of those things, that is all you see, then doesn't it make sense then that is all you want to see?
Yeah.
And there's this notion that, I think social workers think, particularly young ones, I don't know, well, maybe everybody does, I don't know, someone tell me I'm wrong, but, they say, oh, well, because of all of this, I've got to rescue these poor people, so there's this sense of it's patronising again, but there's a certain sense of paternalism, that I've got to save these people from themselves somehow, and one way to do that is to take away their kids. And this is, believe it or not, Avery, this is the original notion around child protection that dates back over 150 years, was that we had to save these poor foundling kids, who were without a mother. From their poor suffering existence that they had, because and then we make it worse. There's a wonderful place called the Foundling Museum in London that Dee and I attended a year or so ago. We went over there, and it was the first one in the world. And parents who were impoverished, who couldn't feed their children, would take them to this place and drop them off. Really to save the kids' lives, because at least they were going to be fed there. They weren't necessarily treated well, of course, but at least they were going to survive there. And they used to give them a token. So a token might be a button, for example, or some small piece of clothing, or a piece of cloth, or a scarf. So and this was how, when the parent came to pick them up, this is how they would identify who the parent was, by the token that they'd been given. And there were parents who did. So I read it in a funny sort of way. I kind of like this idea, because when the parents were in a position to look after their kids again, they could do so. Now, they weren't questioned necessarily whether, this wasn't about, being this wasn't about anybody judging them for being good or bad parents. This guy set up, I forget his name now, but anyway, he set up this place because he realised that there were all these kids that were living on the streets, and there were kids that were going hungry and stuff, and he wanted to save them. Fair enough. And so the original idea was that when you get your act together, you can come and pick your kids up, right? But that system has changed now. The system's gone from, when you get your act together, you can come and pick your kids up, to, you're never going to get your act together, so you're never going to be able to pick your kids up. So, it's just it's bizarre.
We've been talking now for 28 minutes. We've got 76 comments in there. Far too many for us to address all of them.
Yes.
There's a couple that I think we can talk about. I'd like to answer a question that JJ asked. We were talking about who do you trust earlier on. He asked, do we trust Donald Trump? And to me,
he did that on purpose.
Yeah, to me, there's two answers: a short one and a long one. The short answer is no. The long answer is no. Okay,
or definitely no.
Definitely not. Yeah. Angel Hale has commented that Clinton is really working his butt off helping her in Western Australia. Good on you, Clinton, and thank you, Angel, for Angel Hale.
Angel, Clinton will now think that you're an angel, I would imagine.
Yes.
for saying that.
Yeah.
And
I just want to say thanks to Angel for the positive feedback there. It's good to hear.
and I'd like to affirm the same idea on Clinton. He is amazing, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping that one day we could get Clinton into Parliament. It's only a young bloke, but he's the sort of young dude we need to have in there, don't you reckon?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So support
Definitely.
him. Hey, and Angel, while you're there, could you just remember to share this post? And can you also remember, that applies to everybody actually, not just Angel, but I'm assuming that if Angel shares it, it'll have a heavenly response. So,
Yeah.
So could you, and what else was I going to say? And Angel, the idea in WA is to get as many members as you can for the party, which would be good.
Yeah, definitely. We need another 430 something members, I think it is, in Western Australia minimum.
Yeah.
So we can register there.
Yeah. So what was it? Linda says there's no communication within their system.
Yeah.
No communication, and what is their system? Clarify.
Yeah.
Because there's clearly communication because they talk to each other. Is it the appropriate communication, and what would make the
That's the question.
what would make the communication inappropriate?
Yeah.
So are you? When another story, Avery. Sit back. So when I did my first placement back in the early to mid 90s, I worked for a child protection department. Believe it or not, I decided that I was going to do the placement in the place I didn't want to work in. There you go. The irony is here I am doing this other sort of work. But anyway, when I walked into a tea room, remembering I was also a mature age student. Well, I was an age student, mature, that's a different issue. But anyway, I walked into this dining room, and they were talking about ferals. So the clients they were referring, or the parents, they didn't see them as clients back in those days, only the kids were the clients. But the parents they were referring as ferals. So this first time, third year social work student walks in, and I had a go at him. Like I really said, how dare you? How can you label and categorise? And my point was that if that is happening in the department, if this is how we view the people we're supposed to be helping, how is it that we can possibly communicate with them at a level that will be helpful towards having the kids returned or to improving that person's behaviour? Because I can tell you, if someone treats me like crap, there's a good chance I'll just ignore you and not have anything to do with you at all. So when clients feel that they're treated like crap, then, why get your knickers in a knot because suddenly you're finding this person is relatively aggressive to you or don't want anything to do with you? Well, clearly they don't, because they don't like you. And I guess it's not about being, God, you've got their kids. It's the hardest thing in the world. You take away someone's kids, they're going to wrap their arms around you and say thank you very much. But it is still about developing a relationship with them. That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. Catherine McVeigh said, can she ask a question? The answer to that is of course you can. What's your question, Catherine?
And incidentally, we do offer the opportunity, even though it will be rather
to join in.
Not possible tonight because we've already run to how many minutes have we got? 34 minutes or something. We've been streaming.
Yeah.
So so probably not tonight, but you've always been invited. Everybody knows that. And we get really disappointed that there's a lot of people that chat on our comment section. But if you really want to have a chat and have your face, even though you don't have to have your face up here necessarily, but if you want to give yourself a voice, you can connect with us. We do have the technology for that. So did we find out what her question was? No.
Yeah, I've just been looking through the comments there, and I can't see a question from her.
All right. And Angel says she keeps dropping in and out, but that's just what angels do.
They do.
They just come and they go. And so, Angel, look, watch it later. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for saying what you had to say about Clinton as well. So, finally, Avery, mental health.
Yeah.
So, we're doing a session just on No, next Tuesday, actually.
Next Tuesday.
We're going to be talking specifically about suicide.
Yeah.
And we're having, so a lot of people would be familiar with Nadia Burganetti, one of the most extraordinary women of our time. And Nadia has nothing to do with CPP anymore, but she's coming along. She's thoroughly involved in the foundation, doing some fabulous work there. But she's coming along to have a chat. I asked her today, Avery. So she's coming
Yeah.
along. We've booked her in for Tuesday night, and now that we've told everybody that she's going to be turning up, she'll have to be here. So 7 o'clock Tuesday night, we're going to be talking about suicide because she had an interesting experience around a clients and a client talking about suicide. So she's got some interesting ideas about how to best deal with that. And also it's partly about us acknowledging the emotional distress that clients experience when a child is removed or when they find it difficult to be able to, in this particular case, access a child. And it's a really helpful conversation that we'd all like you to get involved in as to what happens to how does it impact your mental well-being once you've been removed or a child has been removed from you. What is that? We'd really love to have that conversation with you. It's a conversation that not many people tend to have because everybody's afraid of it seems. But if you want to join us, link up with us and have that conversation, we'd love to be able to do that with you. So join us on Tuesday night. Can you probably let Avery know if you really want to catch up at the beginning of the session?
Yeah. PM me or send me an email.
Yep, either or.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, that's it, mate. I've said enough.
All right. I said, we're just saying that I said that Catherine's got a question, and she's replied back and said, I've just made the comment. She says, if my daughter has had a legal change of name, why is all her legal documents in her birth surname, and what right do they have to go into Centrelink, housing for info, or even obtain her real surname when her name is legally changed? I disclose the information on who her father is.
I am not a lawyer, so I wouldn't know. I think you need probably some legal advice, Catherine, around that. I can't really comment on, we try not to comment on stuff we just don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Like, don't ask me how to do brain surgery. I do not know. So, just have a chat to a lawyer, I think, would be the best thing around that. And I don't understand. She's legally changed her name. I thought she might even need to have your permission, even if she's a guardian child, to have to do that. So I'm a bit confused as to how that would happen in the first place.
I can't remember. I don't know what state Catherine's in. Here in South Australia, there's a legal service. Their name I can't recall, but you can get free advice from them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll be exact. It's not legal aid or anything, but you can get like a 30-minute thing with them where they'll tell you, they'll try and answer your questions.
You can contact the Law Society in any state, mate.
Yeah.
We'll give you some.
And go onto the Child Protection Party website, and I'm pretty sure we've got it up on there on our resources. I'm just looking right now, but I'm pretty sure we've got a damn thing. My pop-ups interfere with what I was trying to do there. Resources. I think it's there. I've got it. Oh no, I'll look for it. I'm pretty sure we've got a list, a place on there, or it might be on the Riley Foundation where you can actually contact legal services and to hunt for legal aid and things like that.
Oh, you can contact
free legal advice.
It's
got telephone numbers and email addresses.
Yeah, and certainly contact the Law Society in your state. So until you lose a child and have to fight for them, you can't really know. I guess what Linda's saying, and I believe that's true. That until you've actually lost a child, how would you ever know what that feels like?
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm saying is, it might be helpful to tell us. I mean, you don't know. You don't know my experiences. You don't know Avery's. You don't know what our losses have been in our lives. but don't assume we haven't had any either. So, and don't assume that about other people either.
There's another thing people shouldn't assume. Don't assume that that neither of us have had mental health issues either.
No.
In the early 90s, I spent 7 weeks in a psychiatric clinic, and medically, it was the best 7 weeks of my life.
And why in the hell did they let you out, Avery?
I've got no idea.
No, an example with a medical profession make a mistake.
Yeah, I'd gotten onto the rails where I should never be on the rails, and they managed to kick me back off the rails. And I went back to it was the best medical treatment in my entire life. I was in there for depression. It was work induced, and as I say, it was so positive, the results.
Well, that's good. And it's good to know that you've got a place that you can go to. And that you recognise the issues as well is helpful.
Yeah.
On Tuesday I took a mental health day off because I was just overwhelmed, and
got to do it. And I say you can't look at somebody and assume they've got no mental health issues just because you've got a smile on your face doesn't mean you're happy.
Or just because you're as good looking as you and I.
Yeah, that's the thing about JJ commented earlier on that we were the two best looking men in South Australia.
Well, we're the two best looking men on this feed.
There's
no doubt about that.
My immediate thought when I saw that is that there is somebody that needs some mental health assistance.
Well, he does. That's another
story. If he thinks we're the two best looking men in South Australia, he needs help.
I like that. Did you see what JJ put up there? To get DCB workers to work with a family is like telling Donald Trump to wear a mask and acknowledging that COVID-19 is a real thing.
Yeah.
I like the comparison, mate. That's excellent.
Yeah.
He made us laugh. Yeah. JJ made us laugh on our last one. Did he have a little joke at the end or something? Yeah.
He did, yeah. Catherine's replied.
Oh. Right.
I'd said that she might be able to get, depending on the state, she might be able to get some assistance, free advice. She's in South Australia. She says, "Thank you, Avery. Yes, Adelaide Law Society. She's done that. The lawyer said it's such a complex case. He'll be onto it. He'll be onto it all because they've been in the wrong all the way through. I hope things work out for you, Catherine."
Yeah, so do I, very much so. And she also says social work too busy in meetings to learn communication skills. Well, when you're in meetings is when you should be learning communication skills. Right?
Yeah. Well, you need them before you get into them.
Yeah. I reckon I was only thinking about this today. I was so disappointed. I trapped all the way from across the other side of the city to come back for an appointment from one DCP office to the other. And I get there and I couldn't get in. And I tried to text the client and something, and he had his phone on mute, so I didn't hear it. So, but I was so disappointed because this is about communication, believe it or not, Avery. And that is that the social worker there was going to be determined to have a go at me because she just doesn't like me. So, and she has good reason not to like me. I've probably made 4 or 5 complaints suggesting that she's the worst social worker I've ever seen. She needs to be taken off the books. But apart from that, I'm getting feedback again, Avery, so I don't know whether you got your thing back on. But
no, I don't.
But when I was thinking about it, so I was on the way driving there, I'm thinking, okay, what sort of conversation can I be having with this person that's going to make a difference? So I didn't want to attack her. No point in doing that. I'm there to represent the client. I don't give a shit about necessarily what the social worker may or may not be doing, unless that social worker does things that I think are really unhelpful to the client, which often she does. But so I thought, okay, I'm actually going to walk in because the expectation is that I'm going to have a go at her, I guess. I've only done it via email and to a boss and to the minister. No one really important. But anyway, and so I was already keyed up to do nothing. Because I reckon one of the greatest ways of dealing with conflict with someone who expects you to be conflictual is to do nothing. To say nothing. Maybe just ask a question every now and again, inquiringly. But sometimes just to say nothing is the best way to communicate with someone who wants to... Now that I've given that secret away, I hope she doesn't figure out who she was, because next time that won't work. I'll have to look for another strategy. You know.
Yeah.
But the other great strategy. Just finish with this, Avery. The other great strategy is ask them questions, right?
Oh yeah.
So one of the best questions you can ask is, so this is a bit of a tip to everybody. Cherish this. It's free. Well, as is everything we say. But anyway, one of the other questions is, I'm really curious as to why you said what you said. I was just wondering if you could explain to me what you meant by what you just said. I was wondering if you could tell me why you asked me that question. Right? Because every time you ask somebody a question, you're asking them to explore their sense of self.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you do it, does it make sense to you? And when you're doing that, you're not making it about you, actually. You're making it about them, even though they're attacking you.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you think of it in terms of energy, your energy is going,
it's positive energy.
It is. Yeah. It's actually neutral energy, because in a sense it's neither attacking.
Well, it makes you feel more positive doing that sort of thing to somebody.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because what you do is, when you know you're doing it, you look the other person directly in the eye, and because they don't see it coming, they often flinch. What am I to do? What am I to do with that? That's most unexpected.
Yeah, definitely. So you said that was the last thing. There's two comments I want to quickly refer to. JJ, he said that you and me are the best mental health. Is all the mental health help that he needs?
He is a very simple man.
And he also said
he doesn't need much in his life, does he? Everywhere it.
No, he doesn't. He also said that he thinks that I should finish tonight's live feed with a Donald Trump joke, and I'm happy to oblige.
Oh, okay. Well, is there anything else before you do that? Is there anything further you wish to say about?
No, nothing else.
Anything we're doing, because things are motoring along pretty well, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
go for it.
Okay. Donald Trump, after he put in the trade tariffs on China and aluminium, he said that he knew what continent China was on, but what continent is aluminium on?
Okay, and what planet is he from? I think should be the following question. How is he?
Definitely.
Hey, Kamala Harris, I think he is so confused as to what to do about this woman that, every time he opens up his mouth, he sticks both feet in it, I think.
Yeah. Open mouth, insert foot. That's Donald Trump's motto. Yeah. I'm reading that book by Mary Trump at the moment, and I know exactly why he is the way he is, having read that book. She's a clinical psychologist, and it's well worth reading.
Oh, right. I'm still waging through Fear.
I've finished that one.
I know you have.
And Facts and Fears. And I've also got, what's his name, John Bolton's book as well.
All right. I finished Comey's book.
Yeah, done that.
Yep, okay.
I got a shelf full of... I got a shelf book of anti-Trump jokes there. Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you what, JJ. Every week, at the end, Avery will finish with a joke. Is that fair enough? I hope that satisfies you.
I can certainly manage that.
Okay, and there's a lot of people talking about...
You might have to bleep them out, that's the only thing. So
I'm not that good. We'll put a delay on. Okay, thanks everybody for being a part of this. It's really great that you could be here. Join us on Tuesday night to have a conversation around suicide in general. We will focus on youth suicide, have some data and some stats for you to talk to about how our young people are dealing with COVID and with mental health issues in general. So thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks, Avery. You take care of yourself.
You're welcome. Good night, everybody.